today. We've got about 86 participants. We've got parents, community members, teachers, administrators, and board trustees. So I certainly appreciate your support. And I want to start out first by just sharing what the purpose of this evening's virtual town hall is. After completing the first one or two town halls, a lot of questions began to surface in reference to special education. And provided that there are so many variables with special education needs, we felt that it would be important to have a standalone virtual town hall that would specifically address the needs of those students who are receiving special education services. So that's why we're here today. Today is going to be a more of a general broad overview of what services are going to look like when school reopens. We'll get into a little bit more specificity in our part 2 virtual town hall, which is going to take place at 5 o'clock on August the 25th. So I certainly hope that you can attend. What I do encourage you to do is, if you have any questions that come to mind, although we may not have time to do Q&A because we do have a pretty packed agenda with only 30 minutes, I do encourage you to submit questions, because the special education team will be putting together a Q&A, and some of your questions may be questions that need to be directly responded to you individually. They may be questions that need to be redirected to the campus. So I do want to encourage you to utilize this venue to ask questions. What we want to do is to try our best to paint a picture of what the learning experience is going to look like for your child, whether you choose to go with a face-to-face format or a remote learning format. We are also going to have in place a hybrid model for our students receiving special education services. I also want to remind you that online registration is up and running, and we are asking our parents of students receiving special education services to make a decision by next Tuesday evening as far as which learning option you are going to choose for your child. With that, I am going to hand it over to our Special Education Director, Mrs. Halsey Martin-Dean.
Hello. I'm glad and excited to be able to present this information to you. My team's been working very hard to ensure that we have the best possible services we can for all students in the district. We have two main goals as we go into the spring. And that's to ensure the safety of students and staff alike. We're in a very difficult time with the COVID virus, and safety comes first. But we also want to take time to ensure that students have options to receive all needed special education services. So our goal is to provide families with as many options as possible in order to meet the needs of students as we move forward. To that end, I want to talk a little bit about our safety measures and what we have in place in order to promote safety of staff and students. So first of all, we've got lots of personal protective equipment. The district has procured many different types of safety devices, and I think we're making a very good effort to serve students and teachers alike. So all who enter our school buildings will be required to wear masks. Teachers must wear masks and students must wear masks, all students who are able. We are going to give consideration to students who are unable to wear a mask or who cannot tolerate masks. In some situations, it won't be tolerable due to sensory issues or other such needs, but we will talk about that with parents and work to find alternatives and ways to work with students. Our committees will discuss mask usage and all available options for students, so we develop an individual plan for students moving forward with the masks. We have found some alternate measures. We have face shields available for student use and for teacher use. I have found some ball caps that have built-in face shields or face masks. So a lot of our students have issues with the loops behind the ears, so the ball caps have tabs where the mask's attached to the cap instead of to your ear. So that may be a preference for some students. I believe Walmart sells them for about $8.95. So that may be a good option. I've seen bucket hats with shields built in that may be more tolerable to students. We have social stories encouraging mask usage available. Even now, if you want to start working with your child on social stories for masks, contact us and we can send you some social stories. We want to encourage you to practice mask usage with your child and reinforce mask usage. We're going to put students on a diet of mask tolerance where we try to build tolerance for wearing masks. So if a student can't tolerate a mask, the teacher will be encouraged to use additional PPE. Double masking, things like that, using a mask and a face shield will be highly encouraged. So we will work with all individuals in this situation to ensure we have the safest plan possible.
And some of you may still have some questions that aren't being answered in reference to mask. And I do want to remind you that I had said add questions in the chat, which you still can do, but there is a link here in which you can submit questions to us directly that is shared in the chat. But we do have very strict protocols that are going to be in place, and we are enforcing them strictly with staff. And so if you're wondering, we're talking about accommodations and flexibility that are going to be in place for students. And you may be wondering, well, is this going to be for the masses? Because you may have a child who's medically fragile. This is not. When it comes to some of these accommodations and exceptions that we are making, it is based on what is developmentally appropriate for the child. And that's another reason why we're here today having this discussion with you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Gutierrez. So the first 2 weeks of school in our EA units and others as needed, we're going to be teaching safety and hand washing to students. We're going to be teaching use of sanitizers, and we're going to be covering COVID-19 safety issues pretty heavily. So we'll be teaching the expectations and the protocols and the routines with social stories, video modeling, things like that. So we will work with students as they come into the school building on safety and make it routine just for everybody, very routine. So for teacher safety measures, all teachers must wear masks. Now we have purchased masks with clear plastic inserts so students can visualize the teacher's mouth. This is necessary for students receiving speech therapy or students who have hearing impairments or students who just depend on seeing the teacher's mouth for more communication. Every teacher has a face shield available to them for use. We encourage glove usage and we'll provide gloves to staff. We're going to be purchasing aprons for students or for teachers as needed. So the teachers will have a way to cover their clothing if necessary, and then you can sanitize the aprons at the end of the day. And teachers in our specialized units, our essential academics units, and potentially our behavioral self-contained units can wear scrubs if needed, if they feel more comfortable with that level of safety gear. So I think at this point we're transitioning over to talking about service options unless Dr. Gutierrez has anything to add. Okay, we're good. So we've thought a lot about service options and wanting to promote the maximum options available possible to families to make choices for their students. So each family has to make a decision as to which option best fits their child's needs. We're working very hard to individualize options for students. So we need to have an ARD, an admission review and dismissal committee to go over these with each individual parent so we can put a plan in place. So at the end of this, I'll put up contact information so you can call us to help schedule these ARD meetings. We encourage parents to participate fully in the ARD committee meeting and express your wishes and discuss your child's needs so we can best target your goals for your child and your child's needs. So,
and one of the questions that did come up is, are we still expected to participate in ARDs if we can't be there face-to-face? Do we follow mask protocols? Yes, if we are going through an ARD, there will be social distancing and mask protocols, but there will also be opportunities to conduct ARDs virtually as well for those who do not feel comfortable or who have pre-existing conditions and who could not be in a place where we can conduct that face-to-face.
In fact, a lot of our parents found it preferable to meet virtually, that they could meet from work, that it would take a lot less time out of their day to conduct an ARD meeting. So the virtual ARD is always an available option. Just let us know that that meets your needs best. We're happy to do that. So the first option that we have for all students is in-person full day. So anybody can choose that option. The student's current individualized education plan or IEP will be implemented fully as written. If you need changes to that plan or feel it's not adequate for your child, call an ARD to make changes to the plan, but we will implement the plan as it was at the last annual ARD meeting. So nothing changes, in person full day. The next option we have available is a hybrid option or a partial day option. So this is mainly available for students in our self-contained programs like Essential Academics or self-contained behavioral units. We also have a plus unit that's an inclusion unit. So if you're in a self-contained unit where that's where your classroom is all day, you have the option of a hybrid or a partial day. So the goal is to reduce class sizes, because the smaller our classes are, the better we are able to manage safety for students. The Students ARD Committee can make a determination of the amount of face-to-face time the student will receive in the school building each week or each day. We'd encourage half-day participation as the student can tolerate, but that's up to each individual family. If you want to send your child for an hour a day, whatever works, we'll just need to discuss that at ARD and make a schedule for student attendance. The third option that we are offering to all students eligible for special education services is walk-in special education services. We're going to have centers at each campus as well as centers set up at the central office building. Each campus will allow students to walk in to receive their special education instructional services and needed supports. So we will make appointments with parents, schedule the services. The parent will bring the child to the school. They'll receive all their special education services face-to-face. And the time per week will be determined by the Students ARD Committee. So we'll meet to determine how much time is needed per week and what a parent can feasibly bring the child up to school for. We'll work with parents on that. Parents are encouraged to provide transportation to the center when possible, but transportation can be available if needed. So for parents that can't provide that transportation, we will work with you. Transportation is as one of those issues where it's an enclosed space, so to promote safety, we would encourage parents to provide that transportation when possible.
And that's what we're going to do with all students is we are going to encourage that parents, if they can, bring their children to school. We're looking at it based on current trends with registration. We're looking at buses being about 50% capacity, which can still be a concern to parents. So we are asking that if you can, that you bring students to school until we get through this pandemic. Another concern that has come up, and since we are on the topic of walk-in services, hybrid services, the question to our special education director would be, who is going to provide those hybrid or walk-in services to our students?
We are staffing our centers with special education teachers from the campus. The on-campus centers are primarily specialized in providing the instructional supports and services students need. At central office, we'll have our therapists available, our physical therapist, occupational therapist, speech therapist. The therapists that serve your child already will be the ones providing the services. We're hoping that it'll be the teachers that serve your child already, the teachers you know, or the teachers on your child's campus. So we recognize that as parents are choosing remote options for instruction, that you may not want to walk into the campus for service. And that's why we're setting up the centers at central office. So it's a smaller environment, less students. So if a parent chooses that option for safety reasons, that's available as well. But we will have special education teachers and therapists, licensed therapists staffing these centers. All right. So the district centers, as I mentioned, will be set up for students to walk in to receive their speech and other related services. The services available would include speech therapy, occupational therapy, physical therapy, counseling, our vision services or auditory services, even adaptive PE, or any other required service by the student's IEP. In addition, we are going to be offering at least twice a month social skills instructions in the community for students that may have social skills needs, where we go to an outdoor setting when the weather permits and provide small group social skill instruction and interaction. So students who choose remote may choose the option of participating in an activity with peers. We want to try to promote social interaction as much as possible as parents choose that's appropriate for their child.
And it, obviously, if a parent is taking advantage of the walk-in special education services because they don't feel comfortable with their children coming to a face-to-face learning experience, there will be safety protocols in place that will be strictly enforced to ensure the parent and the child's safety.
Absolutely, Dr. Gutierrez. We'll have attestation forms where you can self-report symptoms that your child is symptoms-free. Your child will still have to wear a mask to the centers if they're able to tolerate that. And we'll give you an attestation form from the staff that they are symptom-free as well to promote safety for all. So all services will be by appointment only. So we will have a schedule available that you can sign up for times to bring your child. And all services need to be determined by the student's ARD committee. So if you're interested in receiving this option, the walk-in or the hybrid, please call the special education department at 830-401-8651 to schedule an ARD to discuss the service options for your child. At that ARD, we'll make a plan for what's best in order to serve your child. We also will have available full remote services. If you choose that your child does not need to come up to school for any reason, we will still offer full remote online services for speech therapy, just as we did in the fall, or the spring, I'm sorry, rather, physical therapy, counseling, behavior support, all available remotely as well. If you choose that option, we can accommodate that as well. Again, there's the number, 830-401-8651. Call us, leave your name and number, and we will get back to you to schedule the ARD as soon as possible. So a lot of parents who have children who receive homebound services, this service is typically for students who are too ill, who have some type of illness or medical condition that cannot come to school. These services will still be provided as they were. You have to be eligible to receive homebound services, have a physician sign off that you must have homebound instruction. But we will still continue to provide that in the home if the parent wishes that to occur. Teachers will adhere to strict safety measures and will full PPE equipment while in the home. And again, call us if you're interested in that option, and we will be reaching out to our families who have students in homebound programs right now. Our next town hall meeting is Thursday, August 25th at 5 o'clock. This is just a beginning, a taste of the services we have to offer. As you think about this, they're on our website. We have a one-page document that lists all these service options for you, so you can review that. You can call and ask us any questions. But here's a link both in English and in Spanish to submit questions to our website, and we will try to answer as quickly as we can. In any case, we will answer certainly at the next town hall meeting and be producing a Q&A document for special education services.
And one thing that is important, because there have been some questions that are asked about really specifics on what that virtual experience is going to look like for learning, or whether it's therapy, and how is it going to look for students who are here face to face. There's going to be more specificity that is discussed next week during the town hall to really give you a good idea of what it's going to look like, specifically for those of you parents who are opting for the remote learning services, and talk a little bit more about 504 accommodations, which really, with 504 accommodations, because we do have parents here of 504 students are going to be the same accommodations that are going to be in place for your students who are learning remotely, with some tweaks, and we'll talk a little bit about that next week. We do have a little bit of time, and I'd like to take an opportunity to answer some of the questions that we have live, but I also want to encourage you to utilize the link to submit questions, and we also have the questions that we'd like you to submit for next week so that we can look at what other topics you all want us to cover.
And Dr. Gutierrez, I believe these links are on our website as well to submit
Yes.
questions. So you can access them on our website.
Yes, they are. And one of the concerns that came up is whether the rooms are going to, and the surroundings are going to be sanitized if a student is tested positive for COVID. Absolutely. We'll make decisions on whether we have to close that classroom, that wing of the building, possibly that school. In all areas will be sanitized, and before any students are allowed to come back in. There will be safety measures in place where students are constantly washing hands, sanitizing as they leave the room and as they come back into the room in transition, and staff will also be utilizing disinfectants to ensure that surface areas are clean. So in addition to the mask, there are also going to be other protocols that are in place as well. Another question that I want to answer is if we come in for OT and speech, what would that look like? Is it going to be one-on-one, or are there going to be small groups of students around?
Again, that'll be dependent on preference and need. It may be small group settings, but we have tables set up that are 6 feet wide where we can have 2 students 6 feet apart. Small groups would be no more than 3. Our preference would be individual services if possible. If students are working on similar items and we can accommodate a small group and the parent is okay with that, then we may proceed with some small group settings. In our remote walk-in centers, we have safety protocols in between each student. We will sanitize tables. We have the measures in place already. We met with Christian Lagore and devised a protocol for cleaning tables in between students served. So we've got that covered. But yes, we can do individual or small groups. Some services must be individual. Physical therapy is individual. Counseling is individual. Speech, I believe, would be the only service that may be provided in a small group, or the social skills instruction. To promote socialization, you have to have a group. So.
Thank you. Another question that I'm sure is on the top of the mind of parents is, what is the protocol if a student or a teacher becomes infected and tests positive for COVID? I would encourage parents, I think it would give you some peace of mind to read our blueprint. But once we do receive notification that one of our students or staff members has been on campus and they have tested for COVID, then we go through a process of contact tracing and making a determination of who has been in close contact with that individual for a period of 15 minutes or longer. We also look at were mask worn and other safety protocols. So it is going to be a case-by-case basis that we are going to look at very closely, and being in close contact with local health officials to provide us guidance. And that is what we've been doing all summer. And I'm just really proud of the work that our team has done, because we've gone from dozens of cases of staff members to right now, I hope and pray that the trend continues. Right now we are at 0. Another question is, do I need to supply my child with a face shield to be used only during speech therapy? So I think that may be a question. Do I need to supply the PPE to my child if they're going to have accommodations to wear a shield, to wear the cap, to wear a mask? Do I have to provide that?
We have face shields available, so we can provide that. We would ask that you take it home with you and sanitize in between usage, that we would provide the child one for use during the time they were here. And of course, if it breaks or things like that, we will accommodate, but we will have face shields available. But we ask that you send your child in a mask.
Okay, and then thank you. Another question is a follow-up to what a question that was posed earlier is, who are the contact tracers for the classroom or for the district? Well, we have a student services department who those administrators are going to be working very closely with local health officials in the county, as well as with campus administrators to make a determination. So we're not placing that full responsibility on just the teacher, although the teacher is going to have to help us tremendously, but there's going to be an intense level of support that's available to our staff.
Dr. Gutierrez, may I point out that on the last slide, it says the next town hall meeting is Thursday, August 25th. That's a mistake. It's Tuesday, August 25th at 5 p.m., not Thursday.
Okay, and the communication that we're about to push out will have the appropriate day. Thank you for pointing that out. Another question, are decisions of which option you choose for your child to be resubmitted every grading period? Yes, we will ask that parents or your campuses are going to be over that process of making sure that our parents are selecting options by grading period. Again, a reminder that once an option is selected for September 8th, that option is in place for the entire grading period. So it's very important that a lot of thought and consideration is put in place before making that important decision. And for our parents of students receiving special education services, you do have the additional time until Tuesday evening after the next town hall to make a decision. And for those who, if we have students whose parents have not made decisions yet, then we will be making decisions based on student need so that we can begin planning and building our classes.
And Dr. Gutierrez, for parents of students in special education programs, as we conduct the ARD meeting, it is our hope that we work through multiple options. So at the grading period, should you select another option, that we do not have to return to ARD, that the ARD will contain a plan within it for full remote, full face-to-face, so we don't have to call another ARD meeting unless the parent chooses to. So we're trying to make plans to accommodate all needs.
And I appreciate that, because our parents are busy and many of them have full-time jobs, 2-3 jobs, and to minimize that is going to be important. So I certainly appreciate the team's effort on that. Here's a great question. What is the plan that the district has in place to ensure that students who receive inclusion learning receive the modifications that are identified in their IEPs if they elect to learn remotely? That does not change. There is not any flexibility to a student's IEP. If there are accommodations and modifications that are outlined and your child receives those services with us face-to-face with the support of inclusion, there's still going to be support. We still have special education teachers. We still have those teachers who teach inclusion. So if we're talking about an inclusion teacher, they are still going to work very closely with the general teacher to provide support, possibly working together and providing the remote learning, but we cannot veer away from an IEP. And that's very important for people to know, that yes, we're going to be creative, think outside of the box to meet your child's needs, because one, we have to. There's an IEP that we have to follow. And so we are going to make every effort to do that. Are there going to be mistakes along the way? Absolutely, there's going to be, because we've never done this before. We've never had hybrid services, walk-in services, because we've never dealt with a pandemic that has closed school for months. Our kids have not been in school since prior to spring break. So there's got to be a lot of, yesterday I spoke about grace. There has to be a lot of grace for the leaders, for teachers, for teacher assistants, grace for parents, because you all have not been through this either. And that's one of the talking points that I had yesterday with our teachers. We want grace from each other, and we expect grace. And so we've got to give each other grace, and we've got to give our parents grace, because you've not ever experienced this before. So the only way that we're going to successfully navigate this is through communication, frequently and early on. And that's why we're here. And by being comfortable asking questions, and it's okay if you have questions. We want you to ask questions, and we're going to ask questions of you because you're going to help us think of ideas that are outside of the box that we have not thought of. We're working in collaboration with other school districts too. This is a very unique time in education, but I certainly believe that it is going to make us stronger. And we're going to experience some challenges, but I certainly do believe that our staff here have our students' interests at heart. And with that, I'm going to go through a couple more questions before we close. I certainly want to make use of the time that we have. Could a student learning online or campus to meet with their teacher for extra help after school, for example, is it something like that that's an option? That's going to be individualized to a teacher. You may have a teacher that has a time set aside after school when no one else is around. And that's going to be okay if you make arrangements with the teacher, because you know that it's just going to be the teacher and maybe one or two other students, or maybe no other students. That is something that a parent can absolutely work out with the teacher. That's not going to change. Our teachers are flexible. Our teachers dedicate so much time to their children. They pour their heart and soul into it, that I know, and I have faith, and I believe that our teachers are going to do everything possible to work with you. How will these protocols apply to the Transition 18 Plus program and their job training skills? Excellent question, because we are so proud of that program.
I can address that more next week. I've talked to Ms. Hartman today, and she has great plans for keeping the program going as is, for ensuring she's talked with her students and ensuring that they get the community and personal goals met through that program. We will address that at next meeting. That's a great question, but I know she's got great plans for the students. And may I say something regarding the accommodations and modifications? It's really important to address that at the ARD and communicate, and everybody be on the same page when you have that ARD meeting about what that looks like in remote learning, what modifications you expect to see, and how that's implemented at home. We will work through that with you.
And with that, we are going to close. I just want to thank the special services team for all of the work that they are putting in to make sure that our staff and students are prepared for September the 8th. And parents, I want to thank you for your support and for being here this evening. I encourage you to submit questions that you still have, and submit questions for next week, because we're going to utilize that information to build the agenda. Thank you so much for your time. And one thing before we close, it's a great day to be a Matador. Thank you.